That's your boy Gooch,
That is your homeboy Keys.
and this is the RogueHead Huddle with Gooch and Keys, presented by RGR Football. Gooch, pay the bills.
What's up, y'all? We appreciate all y'all coming to watch this content, whether religiously or in passing. Check out the RGR store. The link's in the bio. Go get you a sweatshirt or a coffee mug. Check out the other shows we have on there. Dan with his film breakdown. Ryan with the live stream on Mondays. Chief in the North with Seth Kaiser on Thursdays. Take this walk with us. It's going to be fun, y'all.
Hey, it always is. All right, let's just get to it. Thoughts on Sunday's win?
Now I have one thought. Two. One, sorry, Aaron, the COVID thing just happened. And two, we were lucky. Not in the sense that like the defense stepped up. The defense did their thing. That was, I even think LaFleur even said it best. That was championship level defense. But if they'd had to play another quarter, I don't think they would have held up. If Aaron Rodgers is back there, I mean, and if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But we're lucky, and we'll take it. A win's a win. Maybe they're finding something. Fingers crossed they're finding something. The offense still looks disjointed. I think Mahomes is still playing too fast. I think he still has some kind of PTSD. And when the pocket starts to shrink even a little bit, even if it's into a natural pocket, he has the tendency to want to try and escape instead of step up. But one thing at a time. I got nothing toxic to say about this one.
Yeah, I keep thinking about this PTSD thing, and like, you got to explain to me the origin of it, because I would have thought if anything gave him PTSD, it would have either been the hit he took in the Browns game or the Super Bowl, and yet he played that Super Bowl. I don't want to say flawlessly, but given the amount of duress he was under the whole game, like, he executed at a super high level throughout the whole game. So, like, I don't like where is the origin of the where's the PTSD stemming from?
I think it's the Super Bowl. I think losing Swartz was okay because Fish was still there. But I think losing Fish in the AFC Championship game and then having that makeshift offensive line and the fact that he had less than 2 seconds to throw the ball because they couldn't block. They couldn't stop Molasses from coming through that line. And every time he took the snap, it was like he automatically had to start running because those pass rushers were just rushing past our offensive linemen like they weren't standing there. And I think that when he gets and let me say, he looked calm initially. But when Niang hurt his ribs and Wiley came in there, I think all he could think, he'll never say it because that's just not who he is. But if I'm looking down the line and I'm like, okay, Orlando, Tony, Creed, Trey, crap, Wiley's down there. And the fact that even after the first play with him being in there, his guy beat him straight out the gate. And so he ends up taking Pat down, and Wiley's on the defender's back. I think that when that happens, in his head, he's not going to have protection. So now instead of snapping the ball and looking downfield, he's feeling the rush way before it gets there. And so he's already trying to figure out his escape plan. I think in the beginning that was the issue too, because the line was brand new. I think he was starting to trust him. And then Niang got hurt. No, I think it's just actually, it's better than the yips, which everybody's talking about. Like, I just don't. I don't know how much I trust Aaron Rodgers after he's immunized, but he's like, oh, yeah, everybody gets the yips. Yeah, yeah. I've never seen it out of Aaron. I don't see it out of Manny, Brady, Breeze. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have that stretch of 3 or 4. I mean, obviously, when they got older, Ben Roethlisberger, you know, the truly great ones, they don't have a 6-game stretch where you're like, what the heck's happening? And I just think he's either playing too fast, thinking too much, or he's worried about his protection, which he shouldn't be, which is keeping him from being Patrick, just letting the game flow.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was Mike in the Discord that posted a comparison of Patrick's 3-game stretch and compared it to 3-game stretch he had. I want to say games 25 to 28 or 23 to 25, something like that. So we're like somewhere right in the middle of between the beginning of his career and now. And he had an eerily similar 3-game stretch statistically. We're not talking like visually what we saw from him, mechanically or behaviorally, but statistically, he had a 3-game stretch that nearly mirrored the 3-game stretch that he's had statistically that's looked really bad, which caught me off guard, but it was interesting. And so, nonetheless, yeah, I don't know if I would call any of that PTSD, but I definitely see where you're coming from with that. And I think the Super Bowl was the first time that he didn't have, for the most part, great tackle play. He was used to playing with a not very good suspect interior offensive line the last couple seasons. And so definitely, I think it's kind of weird now. Maybe it's really weird for him this season, not having to feel like he has to bail out because of the interior offensive line.
Right, which is a good point, because I was going to say, like, he had great tackle play, Schwartz and Fish, and even though the interior was weak, it played into his strengths because he's got that arm. He could back up from what he sees in front of him and throw the ball. Well, now the interior of your line is, I mean, I think I heard somewhere where they have the second ranked O line as far as run blocking goes. Those boys in Creed, Tooney, and Trey, even though Trey is known to give up at least one hold a game, which you can live with that being a rookie. Now he's not stepping up. He's not facing the rush from the center because those boys are keeping him blocked. And so now he still feels the rush. And so instead of stepping up into the pocket where those boys have basically created the Great Wall of Mahomes, he's backing up. And the problem with that is that, and I know everybody's getting on Orlando Brown, and I'm going to give you something to think about. Orlando Brown is used to blocking for Lamar. So when he steps back, when he does his kickback and stuff like that, if the guy is going to get past him, Lamar takes off going forward. The problem is that Patrick goes backwards. And as a left tackle, as a right tackle, at least when I played, and I'm not an expert, don't the goal is to push your man past where the quarterback should be so that he has to come back to the quarterback, takes more time, quarterback gets rid of the ball. The problem is those guys are using that technique, but Patrick is there. So where Brown would be pushing his defender past Lamar, Brady, Jameis, any of those quarterbacks, Mahomes, he's actually pushing them to Mahomes, and Mahomes instead of stepping up, because you can't tell me this guy with all this vision doesn't see that coming. He won't step up. He just automatically just runs, which then turns into a scramble drill, which then scramble drills are always 50-50. You know, I mean, it's just, I mean, I would take it easy on Orlando. Yeah, I'm sorry. And we were just talking about the interior line. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense because I think those were the two different moves we saw from Patrick before this season. One, like you said, the deep drops because of the interior offensive line, and two, you also saw the bail outside, uh, and so I think teams have adjusted to both of those things, like to the point that they know, like their edge rushers know to run to a spot, you know, at a diagonal 10 yards behind where they're at, where their eyesight is. Like, aim 10 yards right here. This is probably where Mahomes is going to be. One, but two, they also have their defense ready the moment that he breaks outside to get him. And so, maybe that was part of what Fisher and Schwartz did great was they were able to block for Patrick to get outside from when he was 10 yards deep and he wanted to leave the pocket. It's hard for me to blame the tackles for a lot of that, and I've shown some plays in the Discord that show where Patrick hasn't stepped up in the pocket, where he ran outside, and because he ran outside, he basically forced it between he and the defensive player. Like, you weren't giving Brown any chance to get close enough to the guy to block for you. It's like sometimes we see that out of running backs or, receivers on screens and stuff or kick returns. Like, you're outrunning your blockers, and Patrick has had a tendency to do that. Brown is not as fast as Fisher. I mean, nobody in the world needs to be told that. We all just know that. And so I think part of it is, Patrick being forced to change what he was used to the last couple of years because we have an interior offensive line. But we also don't have the tackle with the agility to get out in space the way that the Fisher was able to block for him. And I think all of that stuff together, it's one of the reasons, as I've said on here before, and I've said when we've talked, I would like to see Patrick under center. I think it puts too much stress because as an offensive tackle, you don't want to give up the interior pressure, right? You don't want to get beat inside. Like, you always want to get beat outside because it's still a longer path to the quarterback. Well, if Patrick is already 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage in shotgun, and then he backs up another 5 yards, which he typically does nearly every pass, including the Mecole Hardman pass that everyone is mad about, that ended up being a 65-yard pass, I believe, because Mahomes was a good 10 yards or more behind the line of scrimmage when he threw it. And so, when you're constantly doing that, I mean, it puts even more pressure on the tackles because, now you got to, as you said, you have to be able to block for a guy who's now rushing for 10 yards, back. But that person also has to make sure that he doesn't overcommit and then allow the rusher to beat him inside and get the pressure even quicker. And so I think all those things are kind of exacerbating there. Patrick has looked better this last week or two of staying in the pocket. I think it's amazing if you go watch. I think we've all kind of gotten used to it too, right? And maybe it's been exciting for us. And some of it is because of how much esteem we hold for Patrick. Well, if he's breaking the pocket, it's because the offensive line isn't holding. And maybe that's our own PTSD from leftover from Ryder and the other offensive linemen, the interior pressure of the last couple of years, to where we just all assume that the pressure has been there. But it's interesting if you go back and you watch other quarterbacks stay in the pocket, take the hit, stay in the pocket, deliver the ball quickly. Like Mike White's performance against the Bengals a couple of weeks ago. Like, what weapons do the Jets have? You know, how great of an offensive line do the Jets have? They really don't. Like, I don't think of them as a top offensive line. I don't think of their weapons as tops or, you know, in the tops by any stretch. But they were able to beat the Bengals, and he was able to beat the Bengals. He was staying in the pocket. He wasn't moving back. He was staying in the pocket. He was moving up when he had to. He was getting the ball out quick. And when you watch other quarterbacks, like, I think you start to see how much we've like become used to with Patrick, and we've kind of learned to not hold him to a standard. You know, because we like the excitement. We like seeing him get out of the pocket and scramble and playing that backyard quarterback. I think we're as much addicted to it as he is. And so, you know, it's way more exciting than just standing in the pocket, taking a hit and completing a 5 or 10 or 15-yard pass. So, you want to add anything to that?
No, that was eloquently put, my friend.
All right. So, going back, thoughts on the win. Um, you know, I said it before. I thought interception, Snead's interception to me is right there with a couple other plays this season. One of them being Pringle's catch that he went up and just took a lick on in a blowout loss. Like, those two plays are like right there on my super impressed level for the season so far. And you know, I think the defense did some things that were great. It was exciting to see some pressure. It was exciting to see Spags actually blitzing as well. And so, um, you know, of course, we all know the arguments. On the one hand, it was Jordan Love, and so you know you got to take it for what it's worth, making his first start. But on the other hand, he's not a rookie. This is his second season. He's had a year to set behind Aaron Rodgers. We don't know how much Aaron Rodgers, you know, lets him pick his brain, but he still has had a year in the scheme, in the offense. You know, he still played preseason, and he still had Devontae Adams as his main receiving threat, and he still had Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon as his running backs, and still had a pretty dang good offensive line and most of their receivers back for this game. You know, I don't know how big of a difference having Tanyan back would have made if he hadn't been injured, but for the most part, you know, Love had weapons, and I think a bunch of quarterbacks could have did more with those weapons. And so, you know, I'm trying to balance the, you know, the perspective here, because on one side, you know, Aaron would have likely did a lot more damage, but we'll never know. And so,
Right, and Aaron probably would have done more damage. I just need, I need to point out, like you said something, and I really hate agreeing with not you, Keys, but with Colin Cowherd. But Jordan Love has sat behind a certified first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback for 18 months. You've had to have run the scout team or something for those 18 months. And it's not like you have a new head coach or new offensive coordinator. It's been LaFleur for 18 months. Aaron Rodgers took second and third string receivers and a couple of running backs and that same offensive line into Arizona, who, if anybody follows the picks pools, I was picking every week and winning. And they beat Arizona when they had no business doing so. That same team minus Aaron Rodgers came into Kansas City, and aside from a certain play, we had them at 0 for 50 minutes. I think that Aaron Rodgers gained a lot of leverage from this game, because if the Jordan Love era starts or is anywhere near what this game against Kansas City was, and Green Bay is built to win now, you need to pay Mr. Rodgers. But on the flip side, you can say it's Jordan Love. He's an NFL quarterback. He's paid millions of dollars to play this game, and any given Sunday, I mean, and I have the perfect example. The Jaguars beat the Bills 9-6, and I think Lawrence went and got hurt. So take the W and celebrate, Chiefs fans. We got 2 in a row. Is it 2 in a row? 2 in a row. About to be 3, taking on the suddenly depleted Raiders.
Yeah. Well, I would point out that Green Bay win against Arizona was very run dominant. And I guess it's interesting that they didn't come in with that strategy in this game. But regardless, I think the defense would have held up if they had done so. But yeah, I think offensively it was a very frustrating game, right? It seems like maybe I'm recycling what I said last week about the Giants win. You know, you have a really good drive, and then it's repeated by a very disjointed drive. Like, it almost looks like right now it's almost like we have, like, every drive we change offensive coordinators. Like, one drive Andy is the offensive coordinator, one drive Eric is the offensive coordinator, and one drive Pat and Travis get to be the offensive coordinator or something. You know, like, I'm not saying that literally, but it just seemed really kind of disjointed. Um, and I'm sure some of that was just, you know, a lack of patience, or, you know, some thought of, okay, you know, we've shown them we'll do this, so now we can get back to what we want to do, which is kind of frustrating because clearly we've seen the last few weeks, you know, that's not enough. And yet on the positive side, clearly there weren't turnovers in this game, and so, you know, we can celebrate the fact that there weren't turnovers, baby steps. I got to see it in a couple more games, you know, before I think I can rest easy on that part. But, you know, one of the things I learned as a Cubs fan leading up to the year or two before they won the World Series is growth is not linear. We think that players just continue to get better and better and better, and they just go this straight up trajectory. That's not how growth works. It's more like a roller coaster. There's ups and downs. You know, you might take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, or 1 step forward and 4 steps back, or 5 steps forward and 1 step back. It's not smooth how we want it to look. And so, you know, I think the important thing is to stress the process. As long as their process is fine, we're good. You know, eventually the byproduct will be in line with that. But, you know, from as fans, we don't know any of that, so we can only talk or speculate, you know, from our perspective, which makes it frustrating because we don't have control over any of that stuff. But anyway, I thought it's at least something for us to build upon. I think this Raiders game coming up will help either confirm some things, or, you know, either some things positively or confirm some things that maybe, we've been concerned about and we're hesitant about celebrating with this win. And so I guess we'll have a better idea this next week. We'll definitely have a better idea by the time we reach the bye week, having faced the Raiders and then the Cowboys, of where we're heading. And I really think that leaving the bye, that we'll be in a lot better place after the bye than we are or have been. So, depending on what we see these next couple of weeks, will really tell me how much more I should be optimistic, I guess. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hit this and I'm going to get it out of the way. Because really, I'm tired. I don't like arguing with people like Gooch does. Um, and and although I might seem like it sometimes, I'm not petty like Gooch is. So I'm just going to hit these narratives. Some of these come straight from Thunder Dan. I don't need to argue with Thunder Dan. It seems quite obvious to most everybody, whether that's Hall of Fame football players who are retired, whether that's sports announcers who have been doing this for 10, 20 years and have seen a lot, um, whether it's analytics guys and ladies who crunch the numbers and take the time to extrapolate the data, or the rest of us who have two eyes and 2020 vision. I actually have 2010 vision, and so I know that I see things a little bit better than maybe Thunder does.
Uh-oh, the HGs are on. You guys better record this.
But without admitting that he's wrong, Thunder has quietly agreed that Sorensen has no business in coverage. So I will take that as a win. It's kind of an undeniable thing anyway. If there was a psychosis test, a standardized psychosis test, I think one of the questions would have to be, should Dan Sorensen play in coverage? And if you mark yes, you go straight to pick up your white jacket. Spags has erred in playing Sorensen all season. I think only a few people would deny that, or a few people would even question the audacity for the collective soul of America to question that. At this point, it almost seems beyond debate. I don't mean to be disrespectful to Spags, but I don't believe that anybody is above reproach. And so Spags has shown things that indicate to me that, I shouldn't fully trust him. To an extent, Andy has as well. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way towards them, but I'm not going to blindly trust people who do things so blatantly detrimental to the team that they're costing the team, that I should just look the other way, that I should just say, hey, you'll forget more about football than I ever knew. Well, sometimes we can be stubborn and we can be arrogant and we can miss the trees for the forest, or the forest for the trees, however way you want to say it. Cole, go ahead. You tell me in the chat. One of my biggest issues with this whole thing is that Thunder Dan has went out of his way to target Juan Thornhill. And in doing so, he has assumed he knows what Spags has called on certain plays, and he's assumed that he's known what Thornhill's role is on certain plays. And I mean, I guess to be honest, none of us 100% know. None of us outside of the Chiefs know. And And so, none of us can certainly say, but people who watch the film will notice that some of the things that Thunder Dan has said is just completely off from what the film shows. And so if you add that with what he says, and if Thunder were to be right, then at some point I think you have to question Spags even more, because in some of these situations, then, if Thunder were right, Thornhill would have been put in a position that basically nobody could succeed on. But some of the bigger problem is that some of the things that he's taken Thornhill to task for, like he took Thornhill to task for dropping back before the snap. Well, one, Thornhill didn't do that. He started to drop back right at the snap. And if Dan, saw that, then he would just go back and say, well, that was wrong of him to do that. It's like, whichever angle you take with it is like, that's what he's going to criticize. And it's like, at some point, you're just trying to pick on a guy instead of like actually being honest about what's going on. I can only speculate why that is. On one hand, you have a deteriorating, unathletic veteran who is a cerebral player, or at least appeared to be a cerebral player until this year. And I say that because we've seen multiple instances now, including the Packers game, where other players are having to tell Dan where to line up. In the last game, we have a picture in the Discord, you can see it, of Ben Neiman of all people, having to tell Dan where to line up, who he has to cover on a given play. And if Dan doesn't know his own assignments and he's getting flustered and they're snapping the ball before he can even get set, like that in itself is even worse. So something is amiss here with that. But I don't want this to go on because this isn't. I'm not going out of my way to attack Thunder Dan, but he seems to be going out of his way to attack one Thornhill. And I don't know if it's because generally the same people who are attacking Sorensen were doing so in favor of Thornhill. I mean, it seems pretty clear that we have two different trajectories going on here, which is part of our question here. Why aren't we hard on other players too? Well, I think part of that is when you have a 31-year-old veteran with limited athletic ability, he has a very limited ceiling. And so when he is also performing with the very low floor that he is, it brings into question why he's playing when we've already seen one Thornhill before his injury play at a really high level, and he's still young, and for all intents and purposes is the future of this team, whereas Sorensen is not. And so I think when you look at players like that, or if you're talking about someone like Travis or Tyreek, well, one, my partner here has taken those guys to task. But two, they've also still played at an elite level, whereas Sorensen's never played at an elite level. Even when I defended him last year, he wasn't playing at an elite level. You were not getting play out of Sorensen that was reliable. It was up and down. It was feast or famine. Like, that was the big thing, was the clutch plays from Sorensen. Like, that's what I defended from him. He was good for a clutch play game. If being cerebral but being mediocre athletically is what you want starting on your team, I think we have some serious problems. Like, at some point, people have to get outside of their own inferiority complex as fans and former players, and we have to want more. And so, I think that's one of the reasons we're not as hard on Thornhill. One, the guy came back from a major injury. He has some rust to shake off. And if Spags has changed things up, even to the point that a 31-year-old vet doesn't know his assignments. How can you expect a young kid to pick it up even quicker? And so I think it's ridiculous. One, Thornhill makes mistakes. I'm not saying that he's perfect. Okay, but he's also way more athletic to where if he makes a mistake, he can recover from it a lot better than Sorensen. Now, on the flip side, as I argued last week in last week's episode, Sorensen, you know, did show some hustles on his mistakes. He does play with heart, and so there's some qualities there to admire about him. If I had my preference, I can understand this. If I had my preference, I would take an athletic player who is cerebral and he plays with heart and he hustles and he gives his all 100%. And so I can understand why, people want that out of an athletic player like one Thornhill. And so, hey, you know what? I'm there with you. We want to see more out of Juan. But the biggest problem is that Dan Sorensen is unathletic, and now you can't even say he's cerebral because he doesn't seem to understand what he's doing in the defense. And we've seen how much the defense has improved. And yes, other changes have been made too. But probably the biggest change has been the number of snaps that Sorensen has lost and Thornhill has gained. And we've seen the defense improve. So I could go on more. This isn't a fight for me. I want to be fair where I can be fair. I'm not trying to be one extreme just because Thunder Dan's on the other extreme. I don't believe in going to one extreme or the other, and I try not to. And so, this is why even when Dan would have a mediocre game and have his one key clutch moment, I would still stand up for him. Because I don't feel like, hey, you just completely discard the player. But we haven't really seen anything out of, yeah, I know my partner would. But we haven't really seen anything out of Sorensen this year. And I'm sorry, but saying that, for a few weeks he led the team in tackles isn't a great argument to me for multiple reasons. And one being he was playing like 100% of the snaps. Like, of course he had more opportunities. The defensive line wasn't getting tackles. And the other thing was that people were targeting Sorensen. That was the side that you could run on and that you could pass on. So he had more opportunities. He led the team in tackles for a while, but he also led the team in missed tackles as well. What we saw is his snaps went down and Bolton's snaps went up. It did not take Bolton long at all to take the team lead in tackles, which is what we want to see over Dan Sorensen leading the team in tackles. We've seen Thornhill's tackles go up. We've seen Snead's tackles go up. This is great to me. So I don't want to say any more about this. I don't expect to talk about this topic anymore.
Let's keep it going in the comments, guys.
I think a lot of us are ready. Like, we've given up on Sorensen and we've given up on Neiman. We know they have some ability. They still get a good pass rush grade from PFF. I still don't care, though, because I think you can manipulate that too much, right? Like, if you know that a player is only good at one thing, as an offensive coordinator, you can control the situations and dictate the situations. And one, you can keep that player on the side, or two, you can kind of force the defense's hand with things. You learn their rules, and you can learn when Sorensen's out there and now he's forced to be in coverage. And so, I think a lot of us are ready to see what Watts can do and DOD can do. And I think for most of us, Sorensen and Neiman have played at such a low level that it's hard for us to envision DOD and Watts playing at a lower level. And we're okay with seeing that for a few weeks to see with our own eyes that it's not a good idea, that we're wrong in wanting that. And I don't think we should just, you know, be blind or Kool-Aid snorters and say, well, I 100% trust Spags. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Listen, this is the same guy who only started Snead last year because Breland got suspended. We saw Snead week 1, and what we saw from Snead week 1 is regardless of Breland's suspension, Snead should have been playing from week 1. Okay, that's my first strike against Spags in the trust meter. Okay, I have a lot of other strikes on there, including not putting the pressure on Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, who was apparently playing with a torn MCL. And if you watched him in the playoffs, the moment he was being pressured, he was looking like Jameis Winston back there, throwing pick sixes and all kinds of interceptions. Like, there's plenty of things that have broken our trust in Spags, and his insistence on playing Sorensen and Neiman early on. You know, we saw what happened to the defense when they lost snaps. We saw what happened to the defense when Hitchens got hurt and Spags was forced to play more Bolton. So, you know, I don't have anything else to say to this. Like, I have Hall of Fame NFL players on my side. I have analytics guys on my side, and I have the collective kingdom who have eyesight on my side. And when I say on my side, I don't mean literally on my side, but that we all are sharing the same position out. We're sharing the same experience that we're seeing out of Dan Sorensen and the state of the defense when he plays and when he doesn't play. So that's all I got to say right now. I really don't care about anybody's stupid takes. Other than that, I'm done talking about it.
Okay.
All right. So now, Gooch, you're going to tell us about Hardman.
Oh man, take the HGs off, baby. Calm down. You need to relax. Go ahead, take a sip of water. I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. This might be something we have to do on every huddle, actually. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Mecole Hardman because I was watching the game and I watched his drop and I was watching his route running, and then Ryan made a comment on the live stream, so I thought I would dig into some just stats as well as watching him a little bit on some previous games. I'm not a real big film guy. I mean, I could be, but right now with all the traveling, I've got what I've got. So Mecole was drafted in the 2019 draft with the draft that had Kyler Murray and Nick Bosa in it, and Deebo Samuel. But I didn't count Deebo Samuel because he was drafted high in the 3rd, and I don't think we would have traded up to get him because this is also the draft that we got Colin Saunders late in the 3rd. I did compare him to, I went 5 to 6 spots higher than Mecole and then 5 to 6 spots lower. And I just wanted to compare him to his contemporaries. So I got 2 receivers, and receiver number 1 had 188 receptions, 2,610 yards, 15 TDs, and he's only had 1 fumble in 3 years in the league. Then you have receiver number 2 with 162 receptions, 2,677 yards, 22 TDs, 3 fumbles in 3 years. Those 2 receivers are Terry McLaurin and A.J. Brown. Now, I know. You're going to say, Brian, those are number 1 receivers. These are the guys. I want you to remember who is throwing to these number 1 receivers. Tannehill. And then whoever Washington puts in their carousel at quarterback. Now, you heard those two numbers, and these are Mecole's: 105 receptions, 1,400 yards, 11 TDs, 7 fumbles. So right now, Mecole's good for almost 2 fumbles a year, generally at the worst times. And the one thing that I see is the receptions. In all honesty, okay, Brian, those are number one receivers. Imagine how many more tosses they're getting thrown their way. And to have a catch rate of above 60%. If you watch Mecole, even though he just learned how to play receiver, I think he's a one-trick pony. I don't think he's crisp in his routes. I don't think he's physical enough to fight with corners who press him. But I'll give you some more. Those are number one receivers. You're right. How about 180 receptions, 2,783 yards, 25 TDs, 5 fumbles, 75 more receptions, 1,300 more yards, 14 more TDs, 2 less fumbles. Same 3 years, DK Metcalf, who Ryan absolutely hates. DK is the one-trick pony. And you can't make the argument that DK is the lead receiver because Tyler Lockett is there. And Russ trusts Tyler Lockett. That's his. Tyler Lockett is Russ's Travis Kelce. When he needs the good reception, when he needs the first down, when he needs the big catch, Tyler Lockett is the guy he throws to. All right, Brian. DK Metcalf, still no Tyreek, or still no Mecole. Almost the number one. You got to give us something else. Okay, here you go. 192 receptions, 2,133 yards, 15 TDs, and the exact same number of fumbles as Mecole. I'll give you a guess. I don't even think he's the third. I think he's the third option on this team. Actually, he might be the fourth option on this team. And it is Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you got Juju, Chase Claypool, and Najee Harris all in front of him. Because we all know Roethlisberger ain't pitching it like that anymore. I mean, not without winding up like it's a baseball. It ain't happening. So I'm trying to figure out, once again, watching tape, and somebody's going to come to me and they're going to say, all those receivers are great. Mecole hasn't gotten the opportunity. He still needs to grow in the offense. Seth Kaiser said to me, with Ryan on a live stream, it is rare cases that receivers break out after year 3. Year 3 is usually when they make their jump. And I'm going to combat all the stuff that you're about to say to me about how I'm not doing him fair. He hasn't gotten the playing time. Mahomes just doesn't throw him the ball. Ryan's going to say he's on a rookie contract. I'm going to say save the money or make him a return specialist. And I want you to hold on to that word, because the Chiefs had a receiver first 3 years who was a return specialist. And his numbers for the same 3-year period at the beginning of his career are 223 receptions, 3,255 yards, 25 TDs, 70% catch percentage, and 6 fumbles. That's Tyreek. And Tyreek was nothing but a gadget player his first couple years. Certain people are who they are. And I know we wanted to give them an opportunity. You know, Mecole, obviously, he runs almost as fast as Tyreek. He has really good vision when he's running the ball. The problem is the separation when he's running his routes. I don't get it. I don't think it's going to work. He can't never be the number 2 guy. It's not saying he doesn't have a place on this team. I'm just saying that with all the work that we put in, if Mahomes is only throwing to him for 105 receptions and his peers and his predecessor, Tyreek, are 75 to 100 catches more, the trust just isn't there, which is why you see them take the chance on Josh Gordon, why Veach wanted to go after Juju. He's just not panning out. Nobody wants to say it. He's on a rookie contract. He's cheap. Nobody wants to say it's not working out, but the numbers would suggest that he's not working out. And for my money, instead of Mecole, and we wouldn't have got Debo, but we could have gotten Greedy Williams, because I think Greedy and Snead on the corners, that'd be ugly. Or David Montgomery. He was 3rd round. He was after Mecole. We wasted a 1st round pick on CEH. Now, obviously, that was a year or 2 later. And we had Damian, big game Dame. But, I mean, these are all, in the Colin Sanders pick, I don't know if that's boomer, if that's boomer bust. Ryan can tell you that. But for my money, looking back on it, and always hindsight's 2020, I would have packaged those 2/3. You could have moved up and got Josh Allen, not the quarterback, the defensive end. That was his draft. Several people, honestly. I like Mecole. I think he's an overall good dude. He's humble. I think he tries hard, but I think he doesn't match up to his peers that were drafted in the same round. I don't even think he matches up to Pringle. Go ahead and argue with me in the comments. I'm sure Keys will get into it with you, and I will respond from out of nowhere. You just never know when I'm going to answer. That's my take on Mecole. Of course, my partner, that guy over there, will tell you stats is only one way of looking at it. I understand that, which is why I went back and tried to look at games where he excelled. The problem is those games were few and far between. I mean, if you want me to be honest, Demarcus Robinson, y'all know I hate this name. Demarcus Robinson has more games where he showed out than Mecole. And Mecole is faster, younger, and catches better. I mean, his catch radius his catch percentage is better than all those other guys in his draft class, in his round. The problem is that if you look in context, Keys is big on context. 105 receptions, and you've caught 68 of the passes headed your way. That's great. But these other guys are catching 65% of their passes, and they've got 70 more catches than you. We discuss all the time that DOD isn't on the field because something about the playbook. I would argue that he's just not old yet. But if it works like that for defense, you got to look at the offense too. I mean, Andy's playbook notoriously is hard for wide receivers. But if it is, and this is no knock, Tyreek, if you watch this, bro, this is no knock on you, okay? Georgia has a lot of smart people in that school. And Tyreek came from Oklahoma State, where he really ran just out routes and streaks. And if he got Andy's playbook down in 2 to 3 years, Mecole should have it. I don't think, unless he miraculously pulls a Jerry Rice and becomes an MVP type candidate in year 4. He's not here. That's just my thoughts on Mecole. Go ahead and tell me what you think down in the comments. I'm saying this as OBJ has named the Chiefs as one of his top 3 destinations. I'm off of Mecole, but I would love to see a Tyreek Hill, Josh Gordon, OBJ, and Travis Kelce spread out with Frank Gore. What's that kid's name? Al Gore? What's his name?
Gore.
With Derek Gore. With Derek Gore in the backfield, that might be nasty. Anyway, I've already traipsed on long enough. I just thought that we should know where, for those that have still defended Mecole. Hi, Dan. Where he rates with the other guys that were drafted in the 3rd round. Keys, where are we going, brother?
Yeah, and yeah, it's 4-year contract, so after next season. Yeah, I think we've
Bye-bye.
talked about.
Bye-bye,
I think we've
DeMarcus.
talked about.
Bye-bye, Mecole.
I think we've talked about Mecole before, and one of my biggest frustrations, and it was probably back when it was members only, but one of my biggest frustrations was that he hasn't seemed to have the fire. Like we talked about this, and one of the things that he said in an interview or something, there was like a quote, from training camp or something. He did an interview on ESPN or something, and someone asked him about his role, now that Sammy had signed in Baltimore, and he basically said, he's being defensive, and he basically said, I played I did what the coaches asked me to do. And so basically that was it. He played the role he was supposed to play, while Sammy was here, and now he's looking forward to his new role in the offense. And I believe I said something to you at the time, Gooch, of, like you don't take that as a player. If a coach says, this is your role, you go out and you show them wrong, and you force them to give you a different role in the offense. And so, like, by saying that, like, it told me that Mecole is way too passive. And as you talked about with Tyreek, he learned the playbook. He went from all-pro returner, no matter what, who was it, Jalen Ramsey? No matter what Jalen Ramsey says to him, he pushed himself from all-pro returner to be an all-pro wide receiver. And I told you at the time, like, I wanted to see videos of Mecole handcuffing himself to Tyreek and Travis and getting better at running routes, like getting better at every little thing he could as a receiver. And he didn't do that. Like, we haven't seen those videos of him working out in the off season with Travis or Tyreek. Like, you have 2 of the best receivers in the NFL on your own team, and you are not taking your off season seriously by working out with them.
I mean, even Garrett Dieter was posted on YouTube working out with Tyreek. Garrett Dieter, who had to have known he wasn't going to make this team, but he was still working out with Tyreek and talking and getting tips. And I mean, just to talk, kind of follow what you said there. I think we talked about one time where he made a comment on another interview where they were like, "Oh, hey, have you gotten with Patrick and tried to build some chemistry? Oh, we'll do that in season." Okay, so during COVID or afterwards, just this past off season, when all those guys went to Hawaii and was practicing on the beach, running in sand, running routes, trying to build a chemistry, why weren't you there? Pringle was there. D-Rob was there. Kelsey was there. Dieter was there. Where were you? Back in Georgia chilling? I think, and this goes for a lot of people, and I hate being lumped into a toxic fan, and this is going to be a little bit, but I think winning the Super Bowl did take the fire out of a lot of people. I think at the end of the day, they can't take the ring from you. And so even if you don't do anything else, you are now a champion. You'll be recognized as a Super Bowl champion for life. The problem is that even now, it used to be when we were coming up, nobody remembers second place. Unless you're Aaron Rodgers, nobody really remembers the one-time winners anymore either. Like now, when you talk about, if you think about greatest quarterbacks of all time, they all have multiple rings. I mean, Peyton has 2, but Peyton led some of the greatest offenses in history. But outside of that, Bradshaw has 4, Montana has 4, Young has 3. He doesn't get enough credit. Aikman has 3. I don't think he gets enough credit either. And I don't like the Cowboys or Troy Aikman. Brady, obviously, with his 40. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
You forgot Marino, who has 0. And I would put him on there ahead of Aikman, who I'd leave off. But anyway.
I love Mr. Marino.
I mean, it would, I think I would be more satisfied, although I'd probably be a lot more confused, if, we saw Mecole working out with Tyreek. We saw Mecole working out with Devontae Adams. We saw Mecole working out with DeAndre Hopkins. We saw Mecole working out with any number of guys who he can learn from and learn great things from, like showing a desire to want to be better. And so I think that's been my most frustrating thing with him. The Spags come back in 2022. As far as I know, Spags is on a 3-year deal, which ends this season, unless there was like some kind of secret contract extension, which, I don't know why they would keep it secret. But anyway, so for one, I point that out because technically Andy would not be firing Spags. It would just require them to not renew Spags' contract. And so Gooch is over here saying emphatically no, Spags does not come back in 2022.
Nope. Nope. I just don't think it's been enough improvement. I mean, you helped us win a Super Bowl with a bottom third defense. And, you helped us win a Super Bowl in spite of a bottom third defense because Mahomes who still might be in the height of his powers, but let's face it, Chris Jones, where 2 Chris Jones blocked passes, which is all Chris Jones, from not being Super Bowl champions. And then it's just gotten progressively worse. And now that we're going to 17 games, we can't afford 5-4 starts, which is what we are. Because right now we're still looking up at every single team in our division. And we've got 8 games left. A lot of teams are looking strong. I wouldn't resign them. Bring me Rex. Rex, come home, baby. Be a chief. Go ahead. What do you think, Keith?
Well, I'm going to push back on your last point there because I believe the last I saw, right now, the AFC, the best records in the AFC are like 5-3. So they haven't played the extra game that the rest of the teams are. It's like the Raiders and is it Cincy or someone? There's like 2 or 3 teams that are 5-3, and then a huge chunk of teams that are 5-4, like the Chiefs are. So the Chiefs are right there, even with all of that, and then playing the Raiders. Our next game is going to have a big effect on that because if we win, then we're 6-4 and the Raiders are 5-4. But yeah, I mean, like I said there, I think that with this being the last year, I think that makes it easier because it's not a firing. It's not a renewal of contract, which, people might say, well, technically, yeah, you're just talking, it's
Semantics.
semantics, but, I think it comes down to whatever the rest of the season holds. I think that's really it. Um, you had mentioned, talking about this the other day, you'd mentioned, Clark Hunt. And I do think that there's something there with Clark. He doesn't, I don't think he meddles like other owners do, but I think he does get pissed off. And I think when that happens, I think then he kind of meddles a little bit, possibly. I don't know. I'm not there. But I can see him meddling a little bit,
I'll
once he
ask him on
gets
my
to
next
that
trip to
point.
Arrowhead.
Um, I still think, I still think that that I still think that when he woke up and saw, a certain tweet that, he probably got a little hot, and so, but anyway, I think that at some point, like, one, as I said, I think it depends on the way the rest of the season goes. Clearly the trajectory of the defense, the rest of the season, whatever the team's results are, you know, when the Chiefs season is over. And then I think that to some extent, I think the futures of Tyron and Spags are kind of tied here in Kansas City. I think, but I think there's another variable in that it depends on who else is available. Like, who's available that you're going to replace him with. I don't think that we have seen enough out of the position coaches to make me think that you can, elevate from within. And so I think that those three variables are going to have a lot to do with whether he's back in 2022. But another thing that I didn't, I guess, remember or I forgot or didn't know about Spags is that he's already in his 60s. His birthday is coming up next month, and I believe he's going to be 61 or 62. So he isn't getting any younger either. So he looks incredibly young to me, though. Younger than Gooch. All right, let's move on and hit our last topic here. We got to get it out of the way. We will beat the Raiders if Derek Carr gets COVID.
I'm
been
not
waiting for
doing
you to
that.
say it.
I'm not doing that.
No more curses this week, huh?
I actually was going to say it, but now I'm not going to. There's a list of 3 things. Derek Carr gets COVID, sprains his knee or something, or he remembers that he's Derek Carr. This is going to be a weird statement for me to say because as an avid Chiefs fan, it is bred in me to hate the Raiders. But on this day, I am going to give Derek Carr a little bit of props because they have gone through something tragic and then something stupid, which if any of you all recall, we as Chiefs fans, our franchise had the same problem a few years ago. So I will give credit where credit's due. He has definitely been, I think I said something, I did a show on Alex being the leader that we needed at that time. I think Derek has shown to be that leader for that franchise at this time. Unfortunately, that's led into some inspired play as of late. I need you to leave that at home, Derek. Wait. I need you to go ship that somewhere, Derek, because we're going to Vegas, right? And just be your normal self in the game. Enjoy it, buddy, and lose. If the Chiefs do what they've been doing, if the defense shows up and only gives up 17 to 19 points, or less like they've been doing the last 3 games, and the offense continues to make improvements, I think we win regardless. Go Chiefs.
Yeah, this one, it sounds weird to me to go here with my points, but I think that this game is largely dependent on our offense. Um, I do believe, especially after watching Devontae Adams get shut out for the most part, like our defense, no matter who was throwing the ball, okay, clearly Carr is better than Love. But Devontae Adams, still has the ability he has, and to see our defense just like keep him under wraps. Now, I don't know why the Packers didn't go and attack us the same way they did last year using Aaron Jones in the pass game. But, like regardless, like I think that there's hope there that our defense can handle Renfro and Waller. Ruggs isn't there anymore. You're not worried about that speed, with that. And I know it sounds bad to say, but I mean, regardless, that's the reality, is that that speed is not there for you to worry about. And if Deshaun Jackson plays in this game, you're going to have a lot more Chiefs fans asking why the hell Josh Gordon couldn't get in and play more the first week or two. And so, I think that it's got to be Waller and Renfro. And I think that between Juan and Tyron and the way everybody, Snead's been playing the last couple of games, the way our defensive backfield has been playing, or our secondary has been playing, I think you can handle those two guys. And I think you can handle Josh Jacobs if you have Bolton out there. And, I'm kind of feeling really giddy inside now, picturing Josh Jacobs learning who Nick Bolton is. And so, I think, and maybe I'm being too optimistic in regards to our defense on this one, but I really think that, again, we're going to see them be a strength this week. Where I'm concerned is with our offense. Max Crosby has been having a heck of a year. Right now, we have no idea who the right tackle is going to be. I voiced my opinion on the RGR chat multiple times now in this last week. I'm okay with Wiley being a backup guard. I don't think he should be even considered for a swing tackle. And so if he's at right tackle, I'm not feeling too great. And to be honest, if
we can activate Prince Winnebago, Prince Big as Winnebago, Prince Tiana Winnebago. I don't know what his name is. You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. I can't say it either, so I'm not gonna try.
No offense, Prince, if you saw this dog, like I really just hit me on Twitter and give me the correct pronunciation, please.
Yeah, we're going to blame Andy for this because if you'd been elevated for a game, we would know how to pronounce your name.
That's true.
Regardless, like they better have a plan for Max Crosby, and that's one of my concerns with the offense going up against their defense. I mean, they just lost again, as you said, with more stupidity. Or, in past years, we might have just said, the Raiders being the Raiders.
Right.
They just lost another defensive back. And so, like, I really think that this game is going to come down to how our offense fares. The Raiders run, and I posted this in the Discord off of Twitter, but the Raiders run like twice as much cover 3 as the rest of the NFL. Like the
Mhm.
NFL average is somewhere around 30%, and the Raiders are double that. They're like at 60% cover three. And I think what I read was the next coverage they run after that is less than 20% of their usage. So like it's by a wide margin that they're running cover three. And if they keep that up, I mean it depends on how you look at it, right? If because a lot of times fans look at stats and they do like multiple things. One, however you want to phrase it, they mistake correlation for causation, and two, or maybe this is another way to say it. Um, we look at things that are descriptive and we tend to then try to make them prescriptive. So, you know, instead of something describe what's happening, we think, okay, well, because this has happened, if we just do this, and I say that because if that's the mindset we take, well, then we'll go, oh, the Chiefs have been struggling against man coverages. Oh, the Chiefs have been struggling against um, cover two. Well, this is cover three, so we should be great, right? Because we haven't been having issues with cover three. Well, yeah, I don't know because what I've been seeing out of defenses is they're playing deeper zones, and Patrick is leaving the pocket, or he's taking that that drop that we talked about and getting quicker pressure, and the receivers aren't even having a chance to get open because when the defense is playing you deeper and you're running vertical passing concepts that take longer to develop and your quarterback is generating his own pressure and he's doing so quickly, those things don't work well together. So, you know, I don't know, but we're going to have to see. Well, we already know one way or the other the offense is going to have to show up because we don't have a chance to win. You know, I mean, if the defense pitched a shutout, you still got to score points on offense. So, but I would be utterly surprised if this was a 3-0 game. So, but I do feel a lot more optimistic in a really weird way that our defense is going to be fine in this game. I'm just not sure, if the offense takes another step or two, that could be great, but I'm not sure what we're going to see out of the offense this week. And maybe I'm completely off and the offense shows up and the defense doesn't. Great. I don't know.
I and this is gonna be so petty, which is why I'm saying it and not Keys. Like the three people that gave us dislikes on the last huddle, you may not like what we talk about or whatever, but at least this week you can say you learned something. Prescriptive and descriptive, proactive and retroactive and all that. We taught you something. So give us a thumbs up for that at least. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I just wanted to put that out there. That is our huddle PSA for the day. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own flavor, and so people have their own opinions,
And
and
Thunder, if
so
that's you and Aaron Morrow giving me the thumbs down, we can talk about this on the Discord.
I really thought you were gonna say if they're giving you the thumbs down, you got a couple fingers to give them. But
Never on. This is live now. I can't say that kind of stuff. I have to wait till the Rogue live.
like
You know
I
it's
put
coming.
on my I put on my Horace Grant, and you just do the Eli Manning salutes, right?
You know it's coming, don't you, Thunder? Not just kidding.
All right. Well,
I'm kidding. All
guys,
right.
we we do appreciate you being with us, and again, we all have different opinions. We try to bring the different fan perspectives to things. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. Like right now with Gooch saying that we all know. So, and we try to have fun too, and we try to bring a different perspective than Ryan or Dan or other people here have. Sometimes we share the same opinion on things because, hey, look, you're right about things. Like I said, when NFL Hall of Famers and analytics guys and 9 million Chiefs fans all see the same thing, it's not because we're copying after each other or, we're engaging in groupthink. It's that we're intelligent people and we're not trying to gaslight other people. So,
Or in
with
other
that said,
words, if you just watch the huddle first, you'll realize that our opinions actually are shaping and molding the opinions of the other people on this staff, because we're generally always correct. One of us, it comes from the huddle. Don't get it twisted, but we do want to say, I want to say before we get out of here, because I'm going to have to do the closing, we do appreciate all of you who watch. I found out that you have made us the #2 show on this channel. So that's big ups to y'all. We appreciate it. We are super duper humble and appreciative because you chose to take time out of your day to listen to us rant, rave, and talk when you're already busy with your own stuff to do. So just wanted to put out that we as a team appreciate it. You guys are the only reason why we're doing this, really, because I mean, we could have these arguments obviously over the chat or in Discord or whatever, but it's fun
or Twitter.
for us, or Twitter, which I'm on now. We're both on Twitter, but I just wanted to shout out that we appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys keeping an eye out, listening to us, making comments so we can go talk to you guys on some of the stuff we see in the comments. We obviously use on the huddle, which we'll continue to do. I'm just going to roll into it. We appreciate you taking the time, whether religiously or in passing, to watch anything on the RGR Network, Dan's Films, Chief in the North, Ryan's live streams or his shorts, Big Chief Sean. Big Chief Sean on Sundays for the pregame in the parking lot with the barbecue. Make sure you tell somebody you love them, guys, and we'll catch you.
Yep, guys, and don't forget to hit the like if you liked this video, so Ryan knows that he's not just wasting his airtime by putting Gooch's mouth on and my mouth on, and so. But yeah, we appreciate it. Everybody, peace out. We're gonna leave you here with a moment of silence.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.